I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and Troy Public Radio is right here.
Hey, welcome.
Listen up.
Here we go. We're on.
Good. We're on.
Right now.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Nancy Lyons. President Obama will
keep marching.
Multiple ceremonies commemorating the Civil Rights March have already been held in Alabama this week. As Troy Public Radio's Kyle Gassett reports, several key figures in the civil rights movement were honored at the Montgomery Improvement Association's luncheon.
Civil rights leaders have met annually at the Bloody Sunday luncheon, named for the day Alabama state troopers beat back marchers with batons and tear gas. This year's speakers addressed current issues facing the movement, including the Supreme Court's 2013 decision striking down key provisions of the Voting Rights Act. The Reverend Jesse Jackson says the court's removal of preclearance, the formula that determines which parts of the country need federal approval to change voting procedures, flies in the face of what protesters in 1965 were marching for.
This time, as we march across the bridge, we will not see state troopers at the end of the bridge. We'll see judges in black robes.
Other honorees at the luncheon included attorney Fred Gray, who represented both Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. For NPR News, I'm Kyle Gassett in Montgomery.
From Troy Public Radio, this is In Focus. I'm Carolyn Hutchison. On today's show, we have a conversation with the author of Fried Green Tomatoes, Fannie Flagg. We find out about the cafe that inspired the Whistle Stop and her aunt who ran it.
They may put Miss on my tombstone, she said, but believe me, I hadn't missed a thing.
Also, what do you do with an abundance of peaches? Make soup, of course.
Or other ways to enjoy your peaches, so it's not just peach ice cream and peach pie and peach cobbler.
And we explore the early years of Broadway today on the Montgomery Symphony radio show.
It was the popular music of the day. It was the ragtime. It was the George M. Cohan. There are lots of Ziegfeld Follies.
Every act is a showstopper on In Focus after the news.
His career.
A few months back, producer David Cadell visited Hank Williams' boyhood home in Georgiana, and he sent us this musical postcard.
There are multiple museums dedicated to Williams, but the one in Georgiana, Alabama is the only one where the country music legend grew up, the Hank Williams Boyhood Home and Museum.
Come in.
That's curator Margaret Gadsden, who welcomed me into this 1900s house, which Williams lived in from
age 7 until 11. It was 4 years, a period of 4 years that Hank and his mother and sister lived in this house.
The building is a modest one-story wooden frame, located in the middle of a very plain residential street in a small town. If you're a Hank Williams fan, you may know the song Devil's Train, and when you visit the Georgiana Museum, you get an idea where that song came from.
It's the Talk of Troy. Voices and sounds from the campuses of Troy University. I'm Thomas Gleaton. In its second year, the number of students for the Unmanned Aerial Systems program at Troy has definitely increased. Producer Pierce Godwin reports that enrollment is up by 400%.
When I spoke with adjunct professor Al Allenbeck, who teaches the class, he told me it's a good time to get into the field.
There'll be over 100,000 new jobs by 2025 with about an $82 billion economic impact.
In addition to finding ways for them to enter this growing job market, Allenbeck is training his students to aim a little higher.
My vision is I want the student to be able to walk in and be the CDO, the Chief Drone Officer.
For more information on the unmanned...
Some experts expect gas prices to keep falling, down to maybe $2 a gallon by winter. In Alabama, gas prices are nearly already there. Kyle Gassett of Troy Public Radio sent this report.
Fill it up.
At a gas station on the east side of Montgomery, Mary Jenkins is making sure that when she fills up her tank, her cost is the best she can get.
$41.53. Try to make it 42.
It was the sign advertising $2.17 that beckoned to Jenkins. She's more than happy to pay that when she drives the 50 miles north from her hometown to shop in Montgomery, because the savings are substantial.
Compared to Union Springs, quite a bit. Because gas is like $2.50 something compared to this $2.17.
What Jenkins and other motorists have found is that it's a good time to be gassing up in Alabama because with prices below the $2.50 mark in most places, the savings could add up to almost $700 by the end of the year.
The good news for folks in Alabama is that they're looking at some of the lowest combined gasoline taxes in the country.
Greg Laskowski, a senior petroleum analyst with Gas.
Well, Doug, here we are standing in the middle of the Cahaba Lilies on Hatchet Creek. Describe the scene.
Well, this portion of Hatchet Creek is approximately 100 to 120 yards across. Some people marvel that you call a stream this size a creek. But the field of lilies, we're in the upstream edge of it, and it continues downstream for approximately another 200 yards below the point where we're talking. And the lilies are standing total plants about 2.5.
Mary Louise Smith was 18 years old when she refused to yield her seat in October of 1955. She says because she wasn't paid that day, she was frustrated, and that frustration had been building for a while.
There were many cases where he would drive off, give you a wrong transfer, that you had to pay another fare. Sometimes your clothes would get caught in the door before you can step off, or your shoe may come off your feet.
Like the others, she was arrested and then bailed out by her parents, who wanted to keep things quiet. But they later became very public when she joined Colvin and 2 other plaintiffs in the case that went before the Supreme Court. Smith says
Hudson of Troy Public Radio reports the tornado caught many of the store's occupants off guard.
Tennis balls and targets for archery practice were a few of the items strewn about the parking lot after the tornado blew through a sporting goods store on its way through the shopping center. In the aftermath of the storm, employees of the Walmart gathered in the parking lot. Jaquise.
So it's worth the wait, and it does sound like a lot of trouble to make. So maybe that's why we don't see them quite so often these days.
I think so. Fred Saltzman, the man who wrote the article for us, he's a noted food scholar, Southern food in particular. I read a quote from him in a cookbook, Let Me Eat Cake, saying that the baking of an elegant and scratch-made, laborious lane cake is a sign that a noteworthy life event is about to be celebrated.
Well worth the wait. Laura, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for telling us more about lane cake.
My pleasure.